What I really want to drive home in this video is that we are in a completely different era, and what I call it is the era of decentralization. Okay, so let me kind of explain that, explain what that means. So before, you had governments or countries or even big corporations that kind of were drew people in, got those people together, formed some ideas, formed some policies, formed some sort of structure, and you had such an intense capital requirement and infrastructure requirement that it required just people to come in, and you couldn't really easily communicate with tons of people, and so you had to centralize. So by centralizing something, what you're able to do is you're able to condense a lot of information, condense a lot of people, and bring a closer communication infrastructure. I know I'm kind of rambling. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but what we're in now is this era of decentralization. Okay, what that means is technology has diffused out, information has diffused out, and communication between all those nodes is now there. So now you can find any information. You have technology that's powerful. What's in your phone or what's in your computer is powerful enough to do so many things. And now it's all a commodity item, right? And now you're able to communicate with anybody. And that transfer of information and that transfer of ideas, coupled with the technology on the other end, is an extremely powerful thing. But what it does is it allows people and individuals and small groups of individuals to have a massive impact, because there's no bottleneck, there's no restriction on getting that information out to millions of people, or that technology out to millions of people. So really stop and think about that for 1 second. If you wanted to make Intel or make processors, microprocessors, you have this huge capital expense, right? Billions, and you have all these people and all these engineers and all these things that have to go on to make that happen. You need a centralized place for that. So you have a large corporation. You can take that even to the country level. You have resources and all these things, and how do you transport them efficiently? And so you need like the centralized kind of government thing to handle all what's going on, because there's so many nodes, so many connections, so many communication and information and all these things, and so it becomes complex. And you need to centralize some sort of node to handle that complexity. Again, this is getting a little bit in the weeds, but the idea now is that you don't need those centralized infrastructures. And you see this even with processors. You have multiple cores and you have multiple threads, and you have this parallelization, you have this decentralization. I really want to drive home this idea of decentralization. And you have decentralization in education now, like I talked about in my previous videos. You have decentralization in media, where individuals have so much power in that. And in education, individuals, I can make a video and teach people. It's decentralized. I can just do it. I can make the video now, upload it within 10 minutes, and 20 minutes later, bam, it's exposed to the entire world. Decentralization, an individual can do something. Huge. And now you're going to see it in politics, and I'll touch on that later on in the video series, but there's a huge decentralization thing that's going to happen there too. And then you have currency, and might look into Bitcoin about that, but you have this currency and banking and finance. It's about to be decentralized at a massive scale. These things just keep on happening. All of these things, politics, currency and finance, media, and education, those are huge aspects to any society. And so with this change from centralized systems to decentralized systems, in all these realms is I mean, I don't want to be over dramatic, but this is one of those times in history where the mechanisms change, and the assumptions that people make are absolutely pivotal to the success going forward. So what people assumed before in the 70s, 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, in all these realms, finance and politics and technology and media, if they make the same assumptions as were made before, they do not apply now. They do not apply anymore. And like I talked about in my last video about the generations, there is actually a boundary in each of these generations. So the much older generation is still operating that, because that's where the environment that they grew up in. The middle generation straddling these two, and the lower generation is ingrained in these ideas of decentralization, but they're not necessarily formalized. But that's what's going on. And so what you're going to see is also there's more of a startup, more entrepreneurial type of infrastructure that takes hold, and more creation and innovation that is more valuable, because that's what decentralization does. It makes the technology and the infrastructure and those things less important, and the creativity and the innovation more important, pushing the boundaries type of thing. So with that in mind, you just have to keep that in mind, and you have to look at all these things, and hopefully you can go back to the videos and I'll make some more videos, and maybe I tie these things up later in a more cohesive fashion. But decentralization is the new era that we're in, and it's a kind of a renaissance era, and it's going to take hold, and it's taking hold now, and it's completely transformative. So in the next several videos, I'll try and hit on some major points there, some new ones, probably something around the realm of finance and currency, and politics. I want to hit that one too, and kind of unravel why the norm for politics and government, I should say government, it doesn't apply anymore. So I'll hit you up next week, and hopefully that all made sense.